Good afternoon, everyone. She made a move against you deliberately, um, with intention and calculation and the specific energy of someone who decided at some point in some room you weren't in, uh, that your presence in the landscape was a problem that needed managing. Uh, and now the move is landing on he. Let's start with what plotting actually requires, because understanding the architecture of it, what it takes to deliberately move against another person, tells you everything about the person doing it and everything about what this situation actually means. Uh, Plotting requires sustained attention. Um, it requires thinking about someone repeatedly, specifically, with enough focus to construct a strategy over time, um, which means she has been thinking about you uh, consistently, not casually, not in the passing way that people occasionally think about people they've interacted with, um, deliberately, with purpose, with the specific focus of someone who feels, whether accurately or not, um, that you represent something they need to address. Um, and here, right here, uh, is the most important question this reading is going to ask you. Why you, not in the victim sense, not what did you do to deserve this? In the strategic sense, what do you represent to someone who feels compelled to plot against you, uh, that made you worth the effort? Because people don't plot against people who don't matter. They don't construct strategies against people who pose no threat. They don't invest the sustained attention and energy of plotting into someone they consider beneath them or irrelevant. Plotting happens when someone feels, however irrationally, threatened by your presence, your visibility, uh, your competence, your relationships, uh, your trajectory, something you have, uh, or something you're becoming is close enough to something she wants, or close enough to something she fears losing, that your existence in the landscape became intolerable to her. You are not the problem. You are the mirror. And what she saw in the mirror, was something about herself she wasn't ready to face. Now, the big trouble she's in. Um, let's talk about this clearly, because this part of the reading requires the most honesty. When someone plots against another person, um, strategically, deliberately, they expose themselves in ways that direct conflict never would. Um, because direct conflict is visible, it's witnessed. People know who said what. who did what. The stakes are clear and the players are identifiable. Uh, but plotting the behind the scenes, calculated, done in private version requires secrecy to sustain itself. Um, and secrecy over time across multiple people is one of the least sustainable things a human being can maintain. Because every person she told, every person she involved in the plot, every person she recruited as an ally became someone who knows. And people who know things talk, not always intentionally, sometimes just through the accumulation of small signals, a reaction that doesn't match the context, a piece of information that couldn't have come from anywhere else, um, a loyalty that reveals itself as divided when it claimed to be whole. Um, the plot is leaking. Um, if it hasn't already fully surfaced, the people who were supposed to stay silent aren't. The alliance she built around positioning herself against you is proving less solid than she constructed it to be. And the trouble, the big trouble, is that the people who are witnessing this, the ones who are watching what she did and how it's unraveling, are updating their assessment of her. Not of you, of her. Because nothing reveals character as clearly, as permanently, as undeniably as watching someone's plot fall apart. This reflection invites you to consider, who is she to you? Not what did she do? Who is she in your actual life? Because that context, the specific relationship, the specific dynamic determines everything about how you navigate what's unfolding. A colleague, a former friend, someone in your extended social circle, a family member, someone adjacent to a person or situation that matters to you. Because the proximity, how close she is to things that actually matter in your life, determines the level of attention this requires. And right now, before anything else, honest assessment of that proximity is the most useful thing you can do. Now, your role in this, because this reading would be incomplete and dishonest if it only talked about her and what she did. You have a role here too. Not in what she did, that's entirely hers, but in what comes next, in how this resolves, in whether this season produces lasting damage. or whether it becomes something you look back on as the thing that clarified who your actual allies are and revealed the ones who weren't before they could do more damage. Uh, because that reframe from I was plotted against to this revealed something I needed to know is not denial. It's not spiritual bypassing. Uh, it's the accurate assessment of what situations like this actually produce. When you navigate them from your center rather than from reaction, they produce information um, about who can be trusted, about who showed up for you when it cost them something, about who went quiet in ways that told you something about their actual loyalties, about the specific texture of your social and professional landscape that was previously obscured by the performance of goodwill and is now visible. Uh, that visibility, um, however uncomfortable to have arrived at this way, is an asset, um, a significant one, because you can't protect what you can't see, um, and you can't build with people you don't actually know. And now you know more clearly than before who is actually in your corner, um, and who was performing being in your corner while standing somewhere else entirely. Here's the danger, and naming it is part of navigating it successfully. Uh, the danger when someone plots against you and the plot is unraveling is the pull toward retaliation, toward using the now visible information about what she did, about who helped her, as material for a counter move, toward entering the game on its own terms. Strategy meeting strategy, calculation meeting calculation, um, and becoming in the process a version of yourself that the situation doesn't deserve to produce. Because here's what retaliation actually costs, um, beyond the obvious. It costs your position right now, with the plot unraveling, with people updating their assessment of her. Um, you are occupying the most powerful position available in this dynamic, the position of someone who was wronged and responded with dignity rather than desperation, who didn't lower themselves to the level of the plot, uh, and therefore stands clearly above it in the eyes of everyone watching. Retaliation dissolves that position immediately. Um, it converts, uh, in the eyes of observers, a clear wronged party into two people involved in a conflict. Uh, and two people in a conflict, however justified one of them is a much less clear picture than one person behaving with integrity and one person visibly not. Um, Stay clear, stay out of the game. Let her plot complete its own unraveling, uh, which it is already doing. um, without your assistance. Because plots, when they're built on something untrue or unfair, um, tend to unravel through their own internal contradictions without anyone having to pull the threads. The threads pull themselves, given time, uh, given the simple, reliable mechanism of people who know things eventually saying what they know. This reflection invites you to consider what is the most dignified version of your response to this, not the most satisfying, not the version that feels best in the immediate emotional context, um, the most dignified, um, the one that 6 months from now you look back on and feel genuinely proud of, the one that protected what actually needed protecting: your integrity, your relationships, your positioning, without costing you the thing that makes you worth plotting against in the first place: your character, which uh, throughout all of this has remained intact because you didn't lower yourself, because you responded from your center, not from the wound. Um, Keep doing that. Let's talk about what she didn't account for when she built the plot. Um, because every plot has blind spots, variables the plotter didn't fully consider, and hers had several, starting with you. Um, she didn't account for your resilience, for the specific quality uh, built from everything you've been through before this, of someone who doesn't stay down when something hits them, who processes, recalibrates, and continues, not without feeling it. Um, you feel it, but without being finished by it. That quality, the continuing, uh, is one of the things her plan didn't fully factor in. She didn't account for your relationships, the real ones, um, the ones built over time from actual showing up, that don't dissolve when a narrative is introduced into the space. Because real relationships have context, have history, um, have the specific immunity that comes from, I know this person. Um, I know who they actually are. And what I'm being told doesn't match what I know. Um, and she didn't account for time, for the specific, reliable, ultimately unkind to plotters quality of time, which is that it reveals um, everything um, eventually, without exception. And it's revealing now. Um, um, what was hidden is becoming visible. What was constructed is becoming transparent. What was planted is producing fruit that tastes nothing like what was advertised. And the people around this situation, uh, the ones who matter, are tasting it and noticing here's what's true about you that this situation is actually confirming, not revealing for the first time, confirming. Um, you are someone worth protecting against. Um, in the most backhanded compliment possible, the plot is evidence of your significance, uh, of the space you occupy, um, of the trajectory you're on. Because people who aren't going anywhere, who aren't building anything, who aren't becoming something, don't attract this kind of attention, uh, don't produce this kind of response. The plot, as painful as it is to be the subject of, um, is actually a signal that you matter enough to someone in a landscape where mattering has stakes to produce this response. Um, um, that's not comfort, that's information. And information processed correctly um, produces strategy, not retaliation, strategy. Uh, the quiet, grounded, what do I build from here kind. Keep building from your center uh, toward the things that actually matter without the distraction of her collapse consuming the energy that belongs in your construction. Because your construction, uh, what you're building, where you're going, um, is more important than her unraveling. And giving it the majority of your attention rather than watching what happens to her is both the wisest move and the most powerful one. The best revenge, if revenge is even the frame, um, is the life you build while she's busy managing the consequences of what she did. Let her manage those. You have other things to do. The power is yours. Uh, it always has been. Um, she plotted and plots against people who are actually who they say they are, tend not to hold. Um, because the thing a plot requires, the false narrative, the constructed version of events, the framing applied over actual reality, has to compete with the actual reality. Um, and actual reality, when the person it's about continues to simply be who they are, consistently, clearly, without the desperate need to correct the record, um, wins. Uh, um, it always wins, given time, given the simple act of continuing to be yourself, um, visibly, consistently, in front of people who have eyes to see it. Uh, keep being yourself loudly, um, not as a statement, not as a performance. Just keep being who you actually are. That's the whole strategy. That's the only strategy that's ever needed. Uh, and it's working. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Tell me in the comments when you've discovered someone was working against you, what was the first sign you noticed? Drop it below. I want to know what the signal looked like. And what's your instinct when someone plots against you? Retaliate, withdraw, or keep moving? Tell me which one you actually do. That's everything today. Stay in your lane. Your lane is moving faster than hers anyway. Uh, Keep going. Don't look back. Um, you've got things to build.